Welcome to QuestPoints YouTube channel. And what are we learning today? Today we'll be discussing a very important ASP.NET interview question, a very simple ASP.NET interview question. Does session use cookies? Now this question is very simple. I'm sure that many developers know the answer, right? But I'm very sorry to say many of the developer friends, for some reason, they fumble to answer this question, right? So what I will do in this complete 10 minutes of video, I will not only answer this question, but I will also show demonstration. Once you see a demonstration, you become more confident in answering the question, right? And second, I will also tackle some extra questions around session and cookies, right? So let us get started. Does session use cookies? Now, when you get this question right, without hesitation, without thinking, first say yes. Yes. ASP.NET session uses cookies. Either you are using ASP.NET Web Form, either you are using ASP.NET MVC 5, or either you are doing ASP.NET MVC Core, ASP.NET session uses cookies. That is the first important thing, right? So let's go and do a simple small demonstration, because once you see a demonstration, you would never forget, right? And once you see a demonstration, you can very, very confidently answer this question, right? So you can see here, I have created a session here called as value of I. So to go and set the session, we have to say http session.setIn32 value of I, right? So what I'm doing here in this line number 19, first I'm checking, is the session value of I present? If it is present, we get the value of I and we do an increment, right? If it is not present, we go and we just set whatever is the value of I, right? So very, very simple example. So I'm going to go and run this, right? And there it is running, right? So first, because I'm coming for the first time, the value of I is not present, right? So this try get value returns false. Then I go inside this, I set the value of I, right? So now if you want to go and see that, okay, where is the cookie created? You can go to inspect out here. And if you go to applications, in applications, all the storages are seen, like the local storage, the session storage, right? And that's where you can see here a cookie, and you can see this ASP.NET interviews is the cookie, right? So as soon as you use a session variable, you should see cookie out here. And if this cookie is not present, then your session variables do not work, right? And also very quickly, this name ASP.NET interviews here came because, in the startup.cs, I named this cookie as ASP.NET interviews, right? So now if we go again, let's say now the session has opened, right? The browser has opened, the session variable is created. Now what will happen is this cookie is present out here. So if I go back again here, now the cookie is present, right? So now the cookie is present. It will now go inside the if condition, and the value of I will be retrieved. So now the value of I is 1. He makes it 2. And again sends the cookie back to the browser. Now just to confirm again that, okay, does our server side session variable depends on this cookie, right? Let me do a small trick here. I'm going to go and delete this. You can see now I'm trying to delete this. If I now delete this, right? If I now delete these cookies out here, and if I try to go to home, now the server does not know who the user is, right? From where it is. So now because there is no cookie present, this is like a fresh thing. So if you see now, it will not go into that if condition. It will actually go out here. It will then again do a session.setIn32, and this session variable will again write a cookie onto the browser. So you can see again the cookie is written to the browser. So remember, the joint partnership of the cookie and the session actually makes the HTTP protocol stateful. So the server side session variable and the cookie, which is on your browser, cookie is nothing but it is small piece of information which is stored in the browser, right? Both of them actually helps to make the HTTP protocol stateful. So remember, whenever you are asked this question in the interview, ASP.NET session by default uses cookies. Also, there is one more cross question, which is asked here. Where is the data actually stored? When I say data means, if you see at this moment, this value of I is the data, right? So this value of I which we are getting here, for example, at this moment, the value of I is 2. So is the value of I stored in the cookie or is it stored in the server? So first thing, the actual data is stored in the session variable. The actual data is stored in the session variable, and this cookie is nothing but it is a key, it is a value, by which he knows, okay, this data belongs to this client. For example, now this is one browser out here, right? Or one client. There can be multiple clients who are logged in, right? So every client, has to be identified, and every client has to be identified, right? So this cookie value here, helps us to identify that client. So when this client sends an information from here, he says, okay, here is my cookie number, here is my value, right? He says, okay, for this cookie number or for this thing, what is the value of I? The value of I is 2, right? For example, now, if I go and if I open up another browser, so when let us say now I'm going to go and open up another browser. Now, please note this I have opened in incognito mode. So what will happen now? This is another user. This is a different user. Please note. Why? Because I have opened in the cognito mode. So what will happen if I press enter now? You will see now that his cookies are different. You can see this is different, right? For example, if I go back to this one, for him, the value of I at this moment is 3, right? And for the cognito client, right? For him, the value of I at this moment is 1. So one is at the value 3 and one is at the value 1. So the value of I, that is 1 and 3, is stored on the server, and both of them, have their own cookie information, and this cookie information, helps the server to identify, saying that, okay, his value of I is 1, his value of I is 3, right? So remember that the actual data does not get stored on the client. The actual data gets stored on the server. And there is one more simple question which comes in ASP.NET interviews around sessions, and I don't understand why developers answer it wrong. When I say not all developers, but almost like 15-20% developers answer it wrong. Are session private to a user? Absolutely. Session variables are private to a user, and you just saw in the demonstration that the cognito user who opened the browser had a separate session variable I equal to 1, and the another one, which I opened in the normal browser, was another user, and he had I equal to 3. So both of them have their own session variables, and these session variables don't get shared across the user. So don't ever answer that session variables are global. It sends a very, very wrong message to the interviewer, and your interview is not continuing after that, right? So remember, session variables are private to a user, right? And so these are, some of the questions, which comes around ASP.NET session variables. You should be careful, when you're answering them. Now I'm going to go and put up one question for everyone out here. If the cookie is disabled, how can you enable sessions for ASP.NET Core? Very specific question. For ASP.NET Core, how can you go and manage session variables or maintain the state if the cookie is disabled? If you know this answer, please write down below. I again repeat, I'm not talking about MVC5. I'm not talking about web forms, because I know that in web forms and MVC5, it is just a simple web.config change, right? But in case of ASP.NET Core, it is a bit tough, right? So the question here is, and if you know the answer, please put down in the comment that if you want to make ASP.NET Core session cookieless, what is the thought, right? And just before I finish this session, one very important thing, working in a company is one thing. You can be an ASP.NET hero. You can be an ASP.NET master. You must have blasted big projects, right? But when it comes to cracking an ASP.NET interview or a C# interview or an Angular interview or an SQL Server interview, right? You need to prepare. For example, you saw the question on session variable. They were so tweaky, right? And what happens is most of the time, we are busy with projects, we are busy with phone calls, we are replying emails. So it is not that we are learning every day, right? We are actually working. So, then when you go for interviews, you get, such kind of questions, which are around session variables like, okay, what is view data, what is temp data, how is view data different from a temp data, and these kind of questions. And it can really confuse anyone, right? So working in a company is different and clearing an interview is different, right? So here is a very special package out here, which I have created. It has almost 10 hours of course. It covers lot of C# interview questions, basic C# interview questions with demonstrations, right? Followed with Angular interview questions, followed with ASP.NET interview questions, followed with SQL Server, MSBI, and adding to this, we have lots of videos out here, which are step-by-step videos. For example, only doing interview question is not the way. So for example, yes, you should do ASP.NET interview question, but at the same time, you should create a project, right? So you should actually go and create a UI. You should actually use entity framework. You should make an Ajax call, right? So we also have step-by-step videos. So remember, for practicing for the interview, one is you need to do the interview questions so that you don't get stuck into these tweaky questions. Second, absolutely, you also should know how to create a project. You should know how to put a validation and so on, right? So prepare in a dual mode, interview questions, project, interview questions, project. And before I end this video, here is a small ebook gift, right? If you go and if you share this video on your Facebook or on your Twitter or on your LinkedIn, right, anywhere, I will give you this special ebook, which is having approximately 66 questions, probably more than 66 questions, right? So these questions are around, so if I can just iterate through. So here I've covered questions, can you explain the difference between MVC core and MVC file? Explain MVC architecture. Explain the concept of middleware, how to do dependency injection, configure services versus configure. So simple one-liners, this book has, right? So go ahead, share this video on your Facebook, on your Twitter, and send us an email at questpond@questpond.com and we will email you this ebook. Happy learning, happy job hunting. Thank you.